Hello and welcome to the podcast of the Folkus Gallery Band. My name is Keith Hulse and we begin today by listening to some excerpts from a conversation I had with Reverend Malcolm Fife, one of the lead singers in the band. I know a bit of the story, but how long have you been a minister, man?
This is my 20th year.
Right, so you're going to retire in your 21st year?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
It'll be 20 years on the 25th of June, you know.
Have you always been able to kind of use your folk music from the word go? Was it kind of?
It took time. The first church I had, it was very difficult.
Right.
The first church I had was an extremely traditional church.
Right.
And it was one church pastorate. And they didn't. There was lots of comments about the amount of guitar music that there was in church, and you know, things like that. So yeah, that I didn't use it that much there because it became difficult. There was times, you know, I mean, things like when I was doing kids clubs and things like that. I mean, I used the guitar a lot in that, and I used it in schools. Well, I mean, we had this wonderful. We had a girls' brigade company there, and I was their chaplain. And I said to the church that I would like a new hymn book because they only had Rejoice and Sing, and I wanted something newer to put alongside it. And girls' brigade went out and bought Songs of Fellowship books, and these hymn books became the bane of the life of the church in the end. You know, Leicester. And when I got to Leicester, that's when the guitar started to come in more.
Right.
And then I did, after 10 years, I did the sabbatical. And that really worked. You know, that's when...
That's the sabbatical you did with the folk music, isn't it?
Yeah. It was about the relationship between folk music and hymns.
Right.
And it was an amazing sabbatical.
So, you know, people see you walking around with your dog collar on, they won't notice that, or they won't know, like, you've been in folk music since, what, you were 14, did you say?
The first time I went to a folk club, I was 14, yeah.
Is that the one your mum didn't know about?
Yeah. It was in a pub.
Yeah.
My mum would have been horrified if she'd known I'd gone to a pub. I mean, I went out with my friend, and we ended up in Sunderland, and it was in a pub called the Georgian Dragon, and it was a really good folk club because it was part of the English Folk Dance and Song Society, so it was a strong club, you know. And the first night I was there was an a cappella group on. They were called the Young Tradition, and I mean, they're really well respected. Their lead was a chap called Peter Bellamy. And I was just blown away. I'd never heard anything like that before. And I was just, you know, that just caught me. And that was it. I was there every week after that. You know, I told my mum, well, Mum, that's where folk music is. You've got to go to pubs.
Yeah, and of course you didn't have a drink though, did you?
Oh, no. You know.
I know we're gonna play... on the podcast we're doing, we're kind of going to play Rapper to Bank, and I kind of thought about asking you what those words mean, really. Rap to, what is it? Rapper to Bank?
Rapper to Bank.
Yeah.
Well, with the mines, the top of the shaft was called Bank.
Right.
So, you know, now they would shout down the shaft, or they would shout up the shaft to the person who was operating the pulley, to, you know, and they would shout "Rapper to Bank," so, you know, bring her up.
Right. Okay.
That's all. That's what it means.
What it is, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's. I suppose because I grew up really in a mining community with lots of miners round about, you know, all those songs are sort of deep ingrained in me, you know. And there's songs I used to like to sing anyway.
Yeah.
Rapid bank, me canny lads, winder away, keep turning. The back shift men again in Yem, they'll be back in the morning. Me father used to call the shift, when the long shift it was our, but gan now by it hear the cry, dear nights after four calling. Rapid bank, me canny lads, winder away, keep turning. The back shift men again in Yem, they'll be back in the morning. And when that awful day arrived, the last shift for me father, a fall of stones and broken bones, but still above the clatter, he cried, Rapid bank, me canny lads, wind a reed slow, that's clever. This poor old lad is taken bad, he'll be back here never.
Gill HItchen is a singer in the band and an Anglican curate in the St Helens area. Here she shares some thoughts with us about the current lockdown situation.
You know, during this time of lockdown, whenever I look out of any windows, I can see rainbows all over the place in the windows of other houses. And I was so moved by this hopeful sign of our neighbourhood that I thought I would paint one myself. And by it, it's saying, I share this experience with you. We're all in this together. I see you. Here is the one which I painted on my own window. In Genesis chapter 9, we find the story of Noah and his ark and the flood, which covered the earth. And at the end, we hear this promise that Noah made to his family. And God told Noah and his sons, I solemnly promise you and your children and all the animals that you brought with you that I will never again set another flood to destroy the earth. And as a seal of this promise, I will put this sign in the sky. He says, I have placed my rainbow in the clouds as a sign of my promise to you and to all the earth until the end of time, that never again will I allow the floodwaters to cover the earth. I will see the rainbow that I set in the clouds, and I will remember my eternal promise to you and to every living being on the earth. Well, listening to those promises that God made took me right back to being 10 years old and sitting in the science experiment where I learned exactly what a rainbow was and how a rainbow worked, and the wonder that I felt in learning that. But it was many years before I cast any thought to the promises that God made and how powerful that covenant was that he made with all the generations of the earth. And we call this promise that God made a special name. We call it a covenant. It's something that goes beyond the terms of a contract. It's something that is eternal and it's unbreakable. It says that God understands our frailty and our weakness as humanity. The covenant instead entirely provides for our security, and unlike a contract, it doesn't come with terms and conditions. Nothing is required from us in return. God reminds us through the vision of the rainbow in the sky that the storms that weather us, he sees, and we will not be overwhelmed as long as he is near. Without a doubt, the rainbow is a universal symbol, isn't it, of hope. And it's regained a whole new place as such in our time of coronavirus. Over the country, over all the world, rainbows are appearing in windows. And it's a message to one another that we're sending, isn't it? Not to lose heart, as well as saying thank you to all the NHS workers who are battling this storm on the front line. But I wonder how many people have really thought of the power of the biblical truths that it also represents. For Christians, the sun that shines through the storms in our own lives comes to us in the form of a person, Jesus. He is our hope and he's our future as the Son of God. And he's that joyful reminder that by his resurrection, he is the first fruits of the reality of that covenantal promise made between humanity and God. By his resurrection, Jesus is the one in which we can place all our hope and all our fears and our trust for the future. No matter what storms we are living through and no matter what rain might be falling in our lives, especially at this time of coronavirus, Jesus promises his disciples, I am always with you. I will never leave you. Put your trust in me. Love one another, he says, as I have loved you, and you will be delivered from every hardship. Did you know that in his fight against apartheid, Desmond Tutu was also inspired by the symbol of the rainbow? For him, it was the people and all of their diversity and their difference that became themselves the rainbow of God. He might well have been thinking of these words from Christ himself. So, if right now you are weary of lockdown for whatever reason, you too can draw comfort from these words. That the coronavirus reminds us we are God's worldwide family. We are his rainbow. And whatever neighbourhood we call our own, let us embody that spirit. Let us embody the spirit of the rainbow, firm in the hopes that are set out before us through Jesus Christ, that this too will pass. We will not be overwhelmed.
When it rains, it pours, but you didn't even notice. It ain't raining anymore. It's hard to breathe when all you know is the struggle of staying above the rising water.
I hope you've enjoyed this podcast by the Folkus Gallery Band. See you next time. Take care.